Welcome to Backstories, the podcast where we dig deep into the untold tales behind the people, places, and moments that shape our world. Every month, we'll uncover the hidden narratives that inspire, surprise, and challenge us. So, grab your headphones and get ready to journey into the past, one backstory at a time.
All right, this is a storyteller we always look forward to. Are you ready, Prague? All right. This is Prague, and his story is Your Real Birthday.
Robert was born into love. He was wanted and doted upon. He knew the arms of his parents and their friends, cuddling, coddling, bouncing, his joyful, smiling self. He knew from the start how happiness felt. Then came the world, other children, his parents' jobs, competing for attention and molding expectations of and by him. The milestones of life came and went, and in the maelstrom of living, his little plastic brain created the personal programming that made him. His parents, their friends, teachers encouraged, directed, coerced his choices. He was swept up in the expectations, and he rode the flow of the river, floating to an uncertain end. By the time middle school appeared, he knew what was expected, and he'd been told what that end should look like. By upper school, he knew he would be given some choice about the paths to get there. But both explicitly and implicitly, he knew that some of those trails were not for him. They would not be supported. They were not encouraged. It didn't matter that he found them interesting. He was a good son and dutiful, and he focused on the acceptable. And so he was again swept up in the safe flow of expectations from a long mapped out river. Some part of him that he did not heed felt off, even though the route was clear. Life was good, and on each birthday, each milestone came and went, his happiness seemed a given. As each milestone came and went, the misgivings kept coming. He changed majors. He changed course. He tried to predict what path would bring happiness. He wasn't a quitter, so he stuck things out as long as he could before he looked elsewhere. He was always the life of the party and often the elected team captain. So when after years of never feeling quite right, he sought help and told his housemates, to a man they said, "There's nothing wrong with you." But he knew that there was. It wasn't full-blown depression. He was diagnosed with dysthymia, low-grade depression. When he went to grad school, Grad school was a place where his flashes of brilliance seemed to come together. Sometimes I can't read my own handwriting. He was hired as a research assistant and mentored by the head of the program. And still, each milestone and each birthday passed, he felt unfulfilled. He felt a longing. He had a good job, the best out of his graduating class. He had full funding for a doctorate, and sunny skies still did not shine. The flow of life felt turbulent instead of smooth. He hit every milestone in the doctorate first. He was the star pupil, and at each milestone he would resolve to quit, his classmates and friends begging him not to, and so he didn't. He could remember the pure joy of his childhood birthdays and the doting pleasure of his parents. He was in the flow and letting the marks, good job, nice apartment, enough money to have fun, and friends to have fun with, and the birthdays felt hollow. He was happy though, right? Dating was fine until an ex told him that he was the biggest commitment phobe she'd ever known. By that time, they'd been friends for years and not romantic. So he took it to heart and realized she was right. He took that into therapy. When therapy had started years before, he felt as though he was wearing an invisible latex suit and that it was being pulled back by some force, such that every time he stepped forward, he couldn't go as far as he thought he should. Over the years, therapy had cut slits in that suit, giving him more room to move and breathe. And then his contract ended, and for the first time in his life, he had no job. He also bailed out of the doctorate program, ABD and unconcerned. Happy to be free of it. He knew it had never been what he wanted. What did he want? He thought back to those distribution requirements from college outside of his major that gave him joy. They engaged his intellect and his creativity. He was even invited into honor seminars, even though they weren't in his major. What did he want? Therapy was starting to feel like a flume slide as the latex suit shredded and areas of interest bubbled back to the surface after years forgotten under the flow of life. He felt the strength to ignore expectations for the first time. And one day, on a whim, he signed up for a conference in one of those areas of interest. He went, feeling like an amateur and an outsider. In just one session on the first day, he found himself commenting and engaging and being engaged. To use the trite cliche, he'd found his people, and the lightness he felt evaporated the last vestiges of that latex suit. He knew that this day of his birth was a great day. He knew that the day of his birth was a great day for his parents. He, of course, had no say in it. Each subsequent birthday had been as much for others as for him. Now, though, he felt reborn in a world where he had no one to please but himself. This birthday was his, and it was liberating.